Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. My good friend Larry Pratt. He's hard to get on these days because he's got a lot to talk about when it comes to the whole issue of protecting individual rights when it comes to owning guns. He's with a great organization called Gun Owners of America. A lot of debate in recent days about whether or not people who are visually impaired should have guns. I think it's the Hawkeye state of Iowa that went ahead and passed legislation regarding that. Interesting topic indeed. I'm kind of at that point where, you know, if you want to take their guns away, you know, maybe, but as long as the rest of us can have our guns, but I don't know. Larry, welcome to the program. How are you, my friend?
It's always good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Are you fighting harder than ever these days?
Well, I want to tell you, we're in a bit of a celebratory mood right now because the special election, the recall election in Colorado, went extremely well, and 2 state senators are now, I guess if they're honorable when they're in office, then when they're out of office, does that make them dishonorable?
Oh, yes. They were while they were in office. It's just kind of the the occupational hazard is that you are dishonorable. The cliche, right? You know what the difference is between a politician and a statesman, right?
Well, I would have my own definition, but give me yours.
A statesman is someone who died tragically. Up until that moment, they're just politicians. But if they die tragically, they become statesmen somehow. So the history books are filled with them. But, that is good news. We almost could talk the whole segment about that.
Yeah, this was a very hard-fought battle. And as one of the fellows here in Washington says on his show, the liberals wouldn't have any standards if it weren't for double standards.
This is true.
So here they are out there in Colorado during the campaign, which concluded with the recall success, complaining about outside influences, such as the gun lobby and whatnot being involved from out of state, as indeed we are. We're out of state. Well, Michael Bloomberg, was he chopped liver? He was all over those campaigns. He was out there. I think if I got my numbers right, about a tenth of what both sides spent came in from Michael Bloomberg for the
alone
2 gun grabbers.
Yep.
And by the way, they rather nicely outspent us, at least 3-1, I think. So this was something that just had average folks stirred up, and the one district was occupied by Senator Giron. Apparently, was a very Democrat district, but it was a Reagan Democrat district, and so when you present the issue, such as guns, and you could also add other hot-button issues, but when you put that Second Amendment issue before them, then party is not the prevailing guide for them when they vote. And hello, Republican Party, please, are you listening? We're having trouble with the race here in Virginia because the candidate, who's a very good conservative, who I've supported when he first got started, when he was running for a state Senate seat in the special election. Now he's the Attorney General. But he's shy of taking up these hot-button issues, and his campaign is floundering.
Yeah.
And it's just so, and I've already communicated with him, and I said, are you going to pull a Romney? Because that's exactly what Romney did. He came from anti-Second Amendment, pro-abortion, just all the things that offend the national Republican base, Romney was all about. Now, he probably had genuinely changed his views. I'm certainly not going to argue that he did not. He says that he did, but that wasn't good enough. I hope that the Republicans get it sorted out and that we're going to get somebody like a Ted Cruz. And we're going to hear all the rhinos tell us about we're diving off the deep end, we don't know what we're doing, this is a sure recipe for defeat. And, hey, rhinos, when was the last time you won a national election?
Yeah, absolutely. Or a regional election, a state election, or whatever. All of the contested seats in 2012 went to the most conservative candidates running around the country, be it Nebraska or Texas or wherever you want to look.
And where you had establishment Republicans running, they tended to lose. The lectures coming from the Karl Roves of the world are really not something that I choose to listen to, and I think the facts are on our side, and we just ignore the Karl Roves of the world. These establishment Republican consulting class types simply are losers.
Yeah, they're losers.
And the thing that's so phenomenal about your Senator Cruz is that this guy was campaigning against the establishment's Republican, against a rhino. He was campaigning with his dad, who speaks English with a noticeable Spanish accent. And the two of them were pretty much the whole campaign staff. And Dad would often be a surrogate speaking in some other place. Well, I've heard Rafael Cruz speak, and man, I want to stand up and shout when that guy is speaking. What an American this guy is. And his son, of course, without the accent, is like unto him.
Yeah.
So I think somebody like that, who just put together a campaign, sort of the two of them tooling around Texas, the most unlikely victory, but a guy who clearly articulates what the Republican base so wants to hear, and if they don't hear it, they tend not to go vote, and that's when these rhinos lose.
Yeah, by the way, I'll agree with you that that's how that campaign began, but by, I would say about midsummer of last year. It was a well-oiled machine by that time. It was really
by that
quite
time,
incredible.
The money was coming in because
he proved himself.
He beat,
yeah.
This guy's got it.
This guy's for real, and he beat someone like David Dewhurst, which the pundits said were unbelievable. But, of course, he was an establishment Republican. Why is anyone surprised? To me, I knew he was in trouble for day one. This is Texas, folks. This isn't some establishment community. And frankly, establishment guys aren't doing very well anywhere. And I don't know why the Republican Party keeps on getting their playbook from the Democrats. It's really quite alarming.
Yeah, it's we had Dewey, we had Dole, we had McLoser, I like to call him, and then we had Romney. Now, Romney, I think, is a decent man. But he's not one of us.
Yeah.
And he's not one of the Republican base. And, conservatism was his second language, and he spoke it with an accent.
Yep. So big recall election win in Colorado is probably going to redefine Republican politics for a while with a great wedge issue. I think we're going to see more of this. I think the Democrats are going to get very fearful about how they approach gun control as a result of this. It doesn't make sense. How do you think it makes sense to add more laws to deal with people that are going to kill other people? That kid in Connecticut broke 74 laws when he killed those kids at that school at Sandy Hook. How would two or three more laws change that?
And all of the adult victims who could have, presumably, unless they had a felony background, been carrying a concealed firearm, even in Connecticut, where it would be difficult, but you can get a permit to carry, but it was illegal for them to protect themselves with a gun at that school. And so I would say if we want to look for an answer to our mass murders in this country, we look to legislators, we look to members of Congress, people that have supported disarmament in the very places where time after time all of our mass murders for the last 20 years have occurred in legally required gun-free zones. How sick is that? There was one exception. It was a Democrat congresswoman's town meeting, which, frankly, Democrats tend not to want to carry guns anyway. And so the shooter had the assurance that there wouldn't likely be anybody there with a gun, and he did a lot of shooting before somebody finally did take him down. And they literally took him down by tackling it when he was reloading. At least to their credit, they realized they had a few seconds at that point, and they took advantage of that opportunity. But I would say this is one of the big issues that we need to be pushing back on. For some reason, there's something in people's minds about, you can't mean that you want me to put in a bill to get rid of gun-free zones in schools? Well, guns in schools kids don't mix. Yeah, tell me about that let's review again where all these mass murders have been occurring. A mall in Utah that was posted no guns.
Yep.
A movie theater in Colorado that was posted no guns.
Okay.
Schools that are, except for Utah and some places in New Hampshire, a few institutions of higher learning here and there around the country, schools are a place, if you want to be
they're an invitation. Come and kill us is what they are. And those things should be regulated out of existence. No institution should be allowed to have that kind of sign on its wall unless it is protected to the hilt. That should be the only way it should be allowed to have such a sign. It's an invitation to madmen and evil people. Okay, so I told my listeners we were going to talk about the situation in Iowa about individuals and blind people being able to hold guns, own guns. Give me about a minute summary on that.
Well, I did a talk show with a man this morning who's completely blind. I think he has 10 kids. He took no issue with me when I said what those sheriffs are doing in Iowa makes perfect sense. If a blind person is at home alone and he hears somebody coming into his dwelling and he's, he can call 911, but then what's he going to do? On a good day, if the cops happen to be down at a shopping center a quarter mile away, it's still going to take them 5 minutes to get there. What's the blind person to do? Well, I would hope they could put their hand on a nearby handgun and use it, because they're going to know where the sound is. In fact, he took no issue with me when I suggested that blind people tend to have a heightened sense of hearing. He knows the lay of his dwelling, he knows where things are, and he knows where the assailant would likely be. So when he shoots, he's shooting blind in a technical sense, but I think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And it's his life.
His name is Larry Pratt, great friend of this show, great friend of mine, Gun Owners of America, gunowners.org. That's gunowners.org. Great talking to you. Got to get you on more often, buddy.
Well, I love being on with you. Thanks so much for having me.
Keep up the great work. All right, when we come back, more for you. I do want to remind you the best content here shows up over there at usdailyreview.com. While there, make sure you like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter.